All right, so first play we're going to look at, 2nd and 2, one of the Patriots' first offensive plays.
What's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick, Taylor Kyles here for CLNS Media without our names on the bottom. There we go. There it is. At Mike Kadlick, at T Kyles39 here with another live episode of the Patriots Daily Podcast, powered by our good friends over at Prizepicks, always in the CLNS Media Network here. A ton to get to. Taylor just got home from the Combine this weekend. So we are going to parse through everything that we learned out there. Going to look at some reporting from our friends over at Mass Live, as well as the Boston Herald. Karen Garrigian and Mark Daniels put together a what to know piece over at Mass Live. And then obviously CLNS Media, podcasters own Doug Kyde and Andrew Callahan gave us plenty to chew on as well. We have a ton of stuff, ton of news on positional needs on defense and offense. So we're going to use that information. And at the end of the show, we're going to cook up our first mock draft of the offseason. We're going to go 4 rounds and try and see what holes we can fill for the Patriots, now knowing what they're actually looking for. But before we get into all the defensive news, Taylor, how was the Combine? How are you? First show back, just the two of us in quite some time. So how was it out there in Indy? And do you feel like you and the rest of the Patriots beat out there got a lot done and a lot of good work, knowing now more so what the Patriots are looking for heading into 2026?
Yeah, Combine's a good time, as always. I'm very happy to be back at home base for a little bit. But, yeah, it was a good trip. We got to speak to Elliot Wolf and Mike Vrabel. That's becoming like a regular thing. I don't really know what happened before then. I've only been on the beat for so long. But 3rd year in a row, we had a chance to speak to Mike Vrabel afterwards and Elliot Wolf afterwards, kind of on a sidebar after their press conferences, and that really helped round out our perception of the roster. Still some positions that we didn't get really deep into, like cornerback outside of Christian Gonzalez and how seriously they think they could use developmental option. But for the most part, got a much better idea of how they view the rest of the roster. And as you said, our colleagues did a great job getting even deeper intel past that, what exactly they're looking at and, how they want to fill certain positions. So that'll definitely help. But of course, in the offseason, you never exactly know how these things are going to know. So we need to have a decent understanding of different scenarios that could happen, but a much clearer idea overall of what exactly is going to be going on this offseason.
And we will start with the defense right off the bat then, and we will talk about the edge rusher position to start things off here. Now, before we get into the Mass Live and Herald stuff, my colleague at SI, Albert Breer, also dropped a little Combine news and notes nuggets story this morning and mentioned that teams are looking into the Maxx Crosby situation out in Las Vegas, and the Patriots are considered one of his potential suitors. Now, the Herald went on to say on Crosby that Patriots decision makers are waiting to see if the Raiders are willing to play ball, and acquiring Crosby feels more realistic than trading for A.J. Brown, who we'll get to at this time. So before we get into some of the other fits, looks like Crosby, that may start moving this week, and they could potentially trade him out of Las Vegas. Are you still on the Maxx Crosby train for the Patriots? Feels like I know that, I think some people thought the asking price might have been a little bit too high there. We know that Micah Parsons went for a handful of first-round picks and a player in Kenny Clark. So are you slowing down on the Maxx Crosby train right now, or are you still thinking that the Patriots should go try and make a deal for him?
I haven't really been on the Maxx Crosby train since after the Super Bowl. Once we started to get more into draft prep and free agency and realizing that felt like there were other options that they could potentially get. Now, I will say the reporting from the Herald that the Patriots expect they're going to be outpriced for even K'Lavon Chaisson, who EFF thought was going to make $15 million a year. They said it's probably going to be closer to 10 to 12, and the Patriots aren't going to want to pay that. So they're really looking for inexpensive options, which makes a bit of sense when you have Harold Landry under contract right now. He's making a decent chunk of change. You don't even know what's going to happen with him. So a little bit disappointing to hear that they don't really want to make, it seems like, a splash when it comes to that edge market, and are maybe going to go younger. So if you're going to add a veteran to that room and someone who's going to be an instant difference maker, I'm warming up to the idea of Crosby because, again, I'm thinking, well, why wouldn't you want to get a Jalen Phillips or an Odafe Owe or somebody like that who's not as expensive? And I mean, they're close in age. I think Crosby's like 28. Those guys are about 27. I think Jalen Phillips is like high 26 or something like that. So not like a crazy age difference. And clearly Maxx Crosby is a better player, but I was hesitant because you're giving up draft capital. What you need is a team that may not be rebuilding, but is still very much adding to a foundation and still needs pieces on top of paying him a lot of money. Now, if the Raiders' asking price is a first-round pick and closer to like a fifth or something like, or make a fourth-round pick, I would be more open to that. I just do not like the idea of trading away 2 first-round picks, because that could be something you use to address multiple positions for a long time. Obviously, you're not expecting anybody you pick in the first couple of rounds to become a Maxx Crosby type, but even still, they could be valuable players on your team, and you could, once again, address multiple spots while still being able to save a decent chunk of change. So I still feel uneasy about Maxx Crosby. If the deal goes through and the parameters aren't crazy, like you're not actually giving up 2 first-round picks, I'll probably be fine with it. I might even be overjoyed because I really, really like Maxx Crosby. This were a Madden franchise, I would do this.
Right.
But it's not. You have to have some level of responsibility when it comes to managing your team, your cap, and all that. The Patriots do a fantastic job for the most part of managing their cap and all those things. I just don't like the idea of giving up. In the draft pick is a mystery box. It could be anything. It could even be Maxx Crosby, all that, of course. Right. But even still, I mean, if last year's draft is any indication, this is a team that knows their identity and it does a pretty damn good job identifying those kinds of guys in college. But of course, even that's still TBD. So yeah, I'm still not super comfortable with the idea of Maxx Crosby once again, just because it's probably going to take so much capital for him to even get in the building on top of having to pay his contract.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the asking price for Crosby, and from what's been reported by both Mass Live and the Herald, it's clear that the Patriots believe edge rusher is that one of their biggest needs and probably their biggest priority in the offseason, but it feels like they're kind of trending towards the free agent market rather than trying to make a trade. And also the NFL draft, which according to Mass Live, some have speculated the Patriots could target multiple pass rushers in the NFL draft. Obviously, they're sitting there at 31 and, have their, their second, third round picks there as well. So they could potentially double dip there high in the draft. We'll see what happens. But also mentioned names, Mass Live and the Herald also mentioned Trey Hendrickson and Jalen Phillips as guys who the Patriots could potentially go after, and that there are a few admirers inside Gillette Stadium for both players. But the Herald also added that the Patriots are prepared to be priced out on what's expected to be a red-hot edge rusher market. I know you had a couple of names that you were kind of looking at as potential bargain bin signings there, but it's an interesting, I guess, dynamic where, the team feels it's clear that they need help at edge rusher and they need help there now, but they're also not willing to, meet the high price points for some of these guys like Phillips and like Hendrickson. So where could you potentially see them going? And, do you think that, I know you said it's disappointing, but do you think it's a mistake that they're not going to go all in, for some of these top end guys?
Not necessarily, because I think there is enough depth. If they do want to double dip, they could get a couple of pretty good players. Now, Trey Hendrickson was a little bit surprising. Again, that feels like more of a Band-Aid move, and I was hoping they would do something that really is more like you're thinking 3 years down the road or potentially even further than that. And we know edge rushers can play a pretty long time in the league and still be successful. So, I mean, Trey Hendrickson, if they add him, I would understand why. But again, I just wish that they would go towards more of a long-term solution. Jalen Phillips, I didn't realize, plays almost exclusively on the left side for the defense. So over the right tackle, that's Harold Landry's spot. So I do wonder how that would work out if they would ask Phillips to be more on the left side of the line of scrimmage, or if, obviously we have no idea what exactly is going to happen with Harold Landry, but they expect him to be back.
Right.
So I wonder how that would exactly work out, because Caleb Von Chason is a guy who mostly lines up on the right side, for example, but also did spend some more time on the left when Harold Landry was battling injury. So I think that's kind of an interesting situation. Also, as good as Jalen Phillips is in terms of pass rush win rate, he doesn't get a lot of sacks, which I found pretty interesting. It's like a lot of hurries. So not really converting the wins that he has into taking down the quarterback, which is one of my kind of alarm bells. Another one is obviously the injuries. Now, he did play every game last season. Credit to him. That's fantastic. And the kind of thing, I think if you were a Jalen Phillips fan, just the player, maybe not who he was playing for, you were hoping at some point the guy would catch a break. He's had some really rotten injury luck, and he played really well. But you do have to take the injuries into consideration. And once again, the sack total isn't as reflective of his ability to beat offensive linemen. So I thought that was curious. But if they get him, I'd be really excited. Odafe Owe, another guy who's going to make a lot of money at the top of this market, probably the best guy on the market when you just take into account the injury history, what he was able to do last season, the versatility and all that. This is the guy who can rush. He can rush inside. He can rush outside. He's a pretty dynamic player, and one of those guys who I do think can really win a one-on-one more so than a Caleb Von Chason. And he's a good run defender, similar to Jalen Phillips. Those guys are able to play on every single down. So I'd like both of those guys, but again, probably going to price themselves out of what the Patriots are looking for. Caleb Chason, really, when I dug in, is one of the more well-rounded. I struggle to say that because he's one of the worst run-defending edge defenders, and that's pretty significant. But in terms of actually getting to the quarterback, forcing turnovers, making those kinds of impact plays, he's one of the top guys on the edge market, even if he's not the best one-on-one winner and does have his issues as a run defender as well. So honestly, when I did my research, like Boye Mafe, for example, was someone who I thought would be an upgrade. But really, after looking at more of the numbers, Caleb Chason was kind of the more efficient player. When you look at pass rush win rate, they're actually pretty similar. So it's not like you're even getting somebody who is an upgrade in that department. And one thing that's very notable, I'm going to get more into all these guys. We're going to do a separate series where we talk about the free agents in more depth and all that. But the Patriots edge group had the lowest pass rush win rate in the entire NFL, which I don't know if anybody would really expect because they were about middle of the pack in pressure rate. Obviously, the defensive tackles were the stars, but pass rush win rate, where you're actually beating the guy across from you, whether or not you're actually generating a pressure, that's an area where they really, really struggled. So that's where I'm kind of looking for them to get better. So Boye Mafe, although he is a more well-rounded player than Caleb Chason, I'm not sure it gives you what you're really looking for in the pass rush department. So those are really the top tier guys in the market. Again, Jalen Phillips and Odafe Owe are probably at the top there. Then you look at the Caleb Chasons, the Boye Mafes, Joseph Osai, who I know is someone that was mentioned by the Herald as well. I don't love him, to be honest. Like, he'd be, in my mind, a bit of an upgrade over Anthony Jennings because he brings more as a pass rusher, but he's also still a pretty average pass rusher, really more of a run defender when you're looking at where he excels. So, like, that's a move where I would kind of go yawn, to be very honest. Seems like a good dude, though. Probably be a very good culture fit for the Patriots, but again, I don't really love the idea of a run stopper. Like, I want some juice in the pass rush. If they're looking for that, they could find some pretty good bargains. Draymond Jones, another guy who was mentioned by the Herald. The Patriots actually played him twice last year. They played him when he was on the Titans, and then they played him again when he was on the Ravens. And a rare instance where he played all 18 games, or he played all 18 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
But he wasn't in the playoffs. It's because I guess he missed the bye week. So poor guy never had a bye week last year. That kind of sucks.
Brutal. That is absolutely brutal.
And I think probably the first game that he was with the Ravens is when it was the only start that he didn't have last season. But also one thing about this list, there's not a lot of guys that were true starters for their teams. Jalen Phillips is one of those, but Odafe Owe wasn't a full-time starter. Boye Mafe wasn't a full-time starter. Caleb Chason wasn't even a full-time starter for the Patriots, even though he led the edge group in the actual snaps that were played. So, if they want more of an every-down guy who's proven that he can do it, Draymond Jones is that guy. Now he's bigger. When he was coming out of college, he was a defensive tackle. I don't know if he got lighter or what, but he looks pretty comfortable on the edge. So, again, I don't want to get too much into detail and spoil everything, but I really do like Draymond Jones. This guy who can play on both sides of the line of scrimmage, give you some versatility to rush. And another thing with this group, they do have versatility to beat guards and centers, which is something they tried to let Caleb Chason do, and he wasn't able to, which was something I thought was kind of odd for a former first-rounder with his athletic profile. Was not good on the inside, like really struggled and didn't get much going whenever he went against those interior offensive linemen. That's something a lot of the guys in this free agent group actually do give you. And another guy I want to mention, Arnold Ebiketie, the Falcons edge rusher, 27 years old. He might be the best bang for your buck in the free agent market on the edge class. He's not going to make a lot of money, might end up on a one-year prove-it deal, but has one of the highest pass rush win rates in this class, just like I mentioned. Also is a bigger guy, got long arms. You can see he's not a huge speed-to-power guy, but it is effective when he wants to use it. And I believe Chason, when he got here, was similar, where he didn't use speed-to-power a ton, but once he got here, Mike Smith was like, no, that's the base of everything we do. And you saw him embrace that a little bit more. And also, I really like the inside move that Ebiketie's got. So another guy probably at the top of the list for me if you're talking about trying to get some more juice in that pass rush room. And there's also a bunch of guys they could take like a one-year flyer on who are familiar faces. Jadeveon Clowney is coming off a really, really good year. I think he was graded almost a 90. He was in the high 80s.
He's stuck around forever, man. Clowney.
Yeah, and he used to just be more of a – he was misunderstood when he got to the league. People thought he was a pass rusher, but really he was a run defender, an elite run defender, and walked in the league as one of the best in that area who needed to grow as a pass rusher. But he has in his career, and he's really good in line games and looping and things like that. So Jadeveon Clowney is a guy where if they just want a guy for a year, he's going to be in his 30s. He's in his he's 33 or something like that. So he's up there. But again, coming off a really, really good year for the Cowboys. Malcolm Kuntz, a guy who played with Caleb Chason and Maxx Crosby, obviously is going to be 2 years removed from that ACL injury, but still had some good moments moments for the Raiders. And there was one other guy, Arden Key is another one. I don't know how interested they'll be, but again, a guy that Mike Vrabel coached back in 2023. There's one more name. I want to pull up my notes. I thought I was going to remember it off rip. But another guy, I think it was someone that Vrabel coached. Let me see.
Oh, you texted me it last night. I'll see if I can.
Al-Qadim Muhammad.
Oh, yeah, okay.
From the Lions, but worked with Terrell Williams and someone that he's familiar with. And also, the last 2 years when I've looked at edge rushers the Patriots could add, Al-Qadim Muhammad's been one of the most productive and efficient in the group. He's not really an elite, bendy, super explosive guy, but very crafty and knows how to shorten the edge and get to the quarterback and can win in different ways. So that's what makes this edge class even more interesting is you can get the bargain bin guys who, may not be here for a long time, but can at least be serviceable players knowing that you've got a dominant interior. And also just some guys where whether they're coming off injury, whether they're just up there in age and, aren't really guys you want to commit to long-term, but potentially see what they give you for a year. You've got a lot of guys that have connections with either Mike Vrabel and his, staff from Tennessee or Josh McDaniels. So going to be very, very interesting, not just in the free agency. They can double dip in free agency and still do the same in the draft. I believe it was Mass Live that said double dipping in the draft was a possibility, and the Herald that said that double dipping in free agency was a possibility. Now, you can upgrade over Anthony Jennings as much as I love the player, love the person. The pass rush is just meh, and it always has been. And I think the Patriots would like a guy who is still a good run defender, but can give them more of that like a Joseph Osai once again, although he'd probably be more of a starter for you, if not a higher quality of a role player. So Elijah Ponder is someone I still think they should have in their plans. Harold Landry, I don't think anybody is reasonably expecting he's going to play past this season, and there's a chance he may even be a role player there. So don't be surprised if this edge room looks completely different. They need pieces, but it could look a whole lot different than what it looks like right now, even considering what they already have. Might even have to move on from like a Braden Swinson after just a year, which would be disappointing, of course, but, it's a new crop of guys, and he was quiet last year. They don't really owe him anything. He was a 5th-round pick. So, and then even in the draft, there's another one where it's a lot of different flavors of guys and some guys that definitely fit the Patriots from a size and skill set standpoint.
So that's where we'll close out the edge conversation is exactly that, where, you mentioned that the the Herald mentioned potentially double dipping in the free agent market. Mass Live also reported that some have speculated the Patriots could target multiple pass rushers in the NFL draft. Missouri's Zion Young is a name to watch. That is someone who, again, we'll talk about the permutations and how it could happen in the first round, but a potential target at pick 31 or early in the second round if they wanted to do some sort of trade back scenario, what have you. They also met with Cassius Howell and Akeem Mesidor, among other of the top pass rushing targets. So that is kind of where we sit. Any thoughts on the, I know, again, we'll touch on those guys a little bit more when we actually do the mock draft here, but thoughts on Zion Young as a name to watch and his potential fit with the Patriots?
There's things I like and things that worry me. The way he plays, it makes a lot of sense. He's a bad MFer, like very physical, tough against the run. Still a good speed to power guy, which obviously is the base of everything they like to do. Has just a physical profile of one of those dominant type of edge players. But he doesn't have, I think he's more explosive than people might think he is, given he's like 265. Like, he's a big guy, and he's explosive in that way. I also think he has the versatility and the athleticism to drop into coverage. He was like a true defensive end for Mizzou, but after looking at him in the wave drills, I was like, oh yeah, this guy's a freak. He could do a little bit of everything, I think. So probably has a versatility that they like. So I understand why that's a name that's popping up. And even when I was doing my early prep for the draft, reading his profile, I'm like, yeah, this sounds like a potential Patriots kind of guy. But the fact that he isn't particularly bendy or explosive in a way that really is in the upper echelon of these guys, that I don't love, because that's what Ellie Wolf said they want. We said they want that first step quickness, the explosiveness. And Zion can win in different ways as well, which is also important. And you don't always have to just be a bendy guy to be a good edge rusher. The best guys are ones who can just chop that offensive tackle's outside arm down, because once that arm's down, it shortens the corner, and then it makes it a little bit easier to get after the passer versus just being like a Von Miller freak where you're rushing off and bending at like a 45-degree angle. But it's that lack of the elite pass rushing traits where I wonder how high his ceiling really is. Also got in trouble for like fighting in the tunnel or something like that. And he has a DUI. I don't know. Like, I know you don't want a bunch of good guys, but this is, even if it's at the end of the first round, you're talking about a potential first round pick. Right. I do wonder how that would fit into their equation. So those are concerns, but all of these, every draft prospect is going to have concerns and reasons that not everyone's going to have reasons they could potentially fit, but the guys that we bring up on this show obviously do, and they profile in some way. So I like him for a lot of reasons, but the pass rush upside ? And the potential, I don't want to say character issue necessarily, but
off-field situations,
red flags that, have to be acknowledged as well.
Definitely.
Also, really quick before we move on, somebody's really trying to get my attention in the chat. Will McDonald was traded. He was already traded for T'Vondre Sweat. So he's
Jermaine Johnson.
Oh, Jermaine Johnson. I'm sorry. I always get them mixed up in my head.
No, you're good.
Will McDonald.
Are they going to trade Johnson and McDonald in the same offseason? That
they could.
Yeah, I guess they want to very much reset. I guess you're right.
Guys. Yeah. But I also don't think the Jets would trade them. I don't think the Jets would trade with the Patriots.
No, not in
I don't really think that. No. And then there was something else.
There's a lot of
Clowney being 60 years old. I mean, he just had one of the best seasons of his career, or most efficient at least. So again, it's just a name. I'm not saying they're going to do it, but Vrabel coached the guy, and if they just want somebody who doesn't have to be a leader in the room because you got Harold Landry and everything like that, but just throwing names out there.
Yeah, he's a name to watch. I mean, I understand that he's older, but the Vrabel connection is definitely worth noting, as is with any of these guys and guys who Malcolm Kuntz you mentioned as well, guys who have overlapped with some of the guys on this coaching staff. So that is the edge discussion. We'll move on to defensive line now with a lot of Christian Barmore talk this week. Now, wondering, obviously he has a court case coming up. He's dealt with the blood clots issue, but came back and had a solid season on the interior with Milton Williams. We had talked about a potential Christian Barmore trade at times on this show throughout the season, but both Mass Live and the Herald saying that Barmore or the team doesn't, some in the NFL believe Christian Barmore isn't long for New England, but the Patriots don't feel the same way. So it sounds like, at least for now, Christian Barmore is going to stay in New England. Elliot Wolf shared a similar sentiment that they want to continue working with him, allowing him to grow in their system and keep maturing. And then another piece on the defensive line, Khyiris Tonga, not a lock to return. Mark Daniels reporting that the two sides had been talking about an extension throughout the end of the season, but could not come to an agreement. And it feels like the two sides are farther away and that his price is only going to go up in free agency. So thoughts on both those guys along the defensive line? Sound like Barmore probably staying and Tonga not a lock to return.
Yeah, so the Barmore thing didn't make sense to me, the report that they were thinking about moving on, or that people around the league thought they would, because as someone who's close to the situation, I mean, the way that they talked about Stephon Diggs and Christian Barmore's legal situations, first of all, now granted, the conversation at the Combine almost felt like it didn't flip, but they sounded less how would I put it? Anyway, I'm kind of losing my train of thought a little bit.
That's fine.
Barmore, I do think that he's someone they value. Losing him, I think, while they do have defensive tackle depth, losing him would be a massive hole, as we know. And I was open to the idea of potentially trading him towards the end of the regular season when it did feel like his play wasn't really the same. And Ellie Wolf actually acknowledged that there was a bit of a dip in his production. But then in the playoffs, guy played like gangbusters, and you're like, oh, that's what you actually wanted to see. So there's that. Their commitment to, helping him mature and growing up doesn't sound like something that you would say if you were planning on moving on from the guy. I'm sure if the legal situation works,
of course,
not in Christian Barmore's favor and something happens there, obviously this could change. But I would be very surprised, given like Vrabel and Barmore seem to have a very good relationship. And I think they are committed to him and they know what they have in those two guys from a football perspective. Of course, real life could potentially interrupt that. Yep. When it comes to Khyiris Tonga, I'm not really surprised. He became very popular. Feels
very
like
popular.
Around like late early season. You started hearing Mina talk about him and like Doug Farrar, and now like a lot of the film nerds are really getting on the Tonga truck. So I'm not really surprised by that. When it comes to replacing him, I feel like you could just use Corey Durden and Eric Gregory. Corey Durden almost played as many actually snaps at nose tackle as Khyiris Tonga did. So not like it's a huge void necessarily if he leaves. Now, still valuable player. But there's no real space eaters, I think, that could just be a one-to-one replacement on the market. Although one guy I would look at when I was trying to find some potential replacements, Roy Lopez from the Lions, obviously would be a system fit because the system the Patriots won is pretty similar to what they run in Detroit. And I liked a lot of what he was able to put on tape. He's a smaller guy, but he's really quick, and brings you some of, again, not really the space-eating nature of that, but the quickness that Khyiris Tonga brought that kind of surprised us, I think Roy Lopez could bring if they wanted to just add another body and more competition at nose tackle. And then I feel like you can always get one of those really big guys later on in the draft or undrafted. They may not be Khyiris Tonga, where he's got that quickness and pass rush ability, but at least a big body that can help free up the linebackers and make life easier for his defensive ends as well. So Christian Barmore, I don't think he's going anywhere. Khyiris Tonga, if he leaves, I wouldn't be surprised, but of course we're hoping he stays. Was one of the more fun people to cover last season.
100%. Yeah, the Diggs and Barmore situations, like when, those legal cases kind of bubbled up at the same time in late December, and it felt like they really stood behind Stephon Diggs at that point and were kind of wary on the statement with Barmore. And now, like you said, those have kind of flipped where, okay, they don't know about the Diggs situation. It could also have to do with just his contract situation where they think he is in the wide receiver room versus where Barmore is in the defensive line room. But it became pretty clear to me that at least this week that they feel more confident about Barmore's future with the team rather than Stephon Diggs's, which we'll get into the offense here in a second. But let's wrap up defense first, and we'll go to defensive back where the Boston Herald is reporting that the Patriots view the safety class as deep, but Jalen Hawkins' market is unexpectedly cool right now. Again, I guess technically he's not really supposed to have a free agent market considering that legal tampering is not allowed. But we know that, these guys are talking anyway. So it sounds like his market is cool. And Chiefs safety Brian Cook, Rams veteran Cam Curl, and Seahawks safety Kobe Bryant are names to know on the free agent safety market for the Patriots. And then the Herald also added that Christian Gonzalez's contract extension remains only a matter of time right now. So it sounds like they might not balk at the idea of trying to wait that out and see what happens throughout the course of the training camp and, the beginning of the regular season. It sounds like they're going to try and lock up the former first round pick for the Patriots.
Yeah, we speculated that the waiting for Christian Gonzalez's contract might just be, let's figure out what free agency looks like, how we need to structure this and all that. So that makes sense. And I'm glad that there's a little bit more clarification there. With Jalen Hawkins, I saw one of the reports said that someone didn't even see him as a starting caliber player. That was pretty disrespectful.
Yeah, that's odd.
Like, he literally just did and had a very good season. So that was kind of a shitty thing to say.
Yeah.
But after looking at the numbers, honestly, these guys are all comparable. There's not really a head and shoulders best safety in this class to me. I think it's guys that are maybe like Cameron Curl is probably the most comparable, and I think would make the most sense if they did have to replace Jalen Hawkins. Another guy who was up there in the rankings for coverage, up there in run defense, and also was a pretty effective blitzer for the Rams. So one thing about Curl is he's smaller, but I actually think he has more stopping power when he hits, which I like. Jalen Hawkins has some, but he'll slide off guys every once in a while, and I didn't notice that quite as much when I was looking at Cameron Curl. So there's one potential option. I know Kobe Bryant, obviously we saw what he could do. He's a really smart player. His interception numbers are a bit fugazi because there were a lot of bad throws that were either late or just completely inaccurate over the middle that he took advantage of. So credit him there. But it's not like you see 4 interceptions and think this guy might be a ball hawk. And in that case, he was more opportunistic than anything else. But all of these guys have some ability to move around the formation. They played in the slot. They play in the box. They play deep. The only one of those names doesn't really blitz very often. It was, what was the second one? It's not Curl.
Brian Cook.
Brian Cook.
Yep.
Yeah, he only blitzed once from depth, but he actually got a hurry. So it's there. Brian Cook's another one I like. I think he takes really good angles to the football. Yeah. And I think his click close and ability to diagnose is pretty good. So I don't think it would be terrible if Jalen Hawkins didn't come back, but the fact that his market's not looking great, I mean, this should be a slam dunk. Because again, I don't think there's anybody that's a huge upgrade over him, and keeping continuity I think is important. We know Hawkins is great in the locker room, knows Craig Woodson. They have a great relationship. It would be cooler to just see them continue to grow together. And then maybe, you draft somebody in one of the late rounds to potentially develop as depth behind them. Or if you feel like you need to dip into the position later. Obviously, this is a very deep safety class. So I wouldn't be surprised if they got somebody else, maybe to upgrade over like a Del Pettis potentially, who's very good dime player, really good special teamer, but, younger, cheaper, faster. That's always the motto.
Definitely.
And there's no secure spot necessarily for Del Pettis. So Jalen Hawkins seems like he should be back. But if he doesn't return, there are very comparable options on the free agent market and plenty of good safeties where if that became a top priority, they could probably get somebody in the first 2-3 rounds.
Definitely. All right, we will hit the rest of the offensive rumors here in just a second and also run through a 4-round mock draft. But before we do that, got to tell you guys about our friends over at Prizepicks, because as you know, this episode and every episode of Patriots Daily is brought to you by Prizepicks. Shoot your shot on Prizepicks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right, Prizepicks is now giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5. They make every dunk, every dime, and every board that much more exciting. So don't miss this chance to get started on America's #1 app for sports picks. All you got to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And if you get your picks right, you can cash in. Pick them from all your favorite sports, anything from basketball, baseball, hockey, UFC, college basketball, and more. And they also have a new feature called early payouts, where if your player gets off to a hot start, you have the option to cash out before the game even finishes. So download the Prizepicks app today, use code CLNS, and you get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks, it's good to be right. All right, the talk of the NFL Combine this week, Taylor, a potential A.J. Brown trade. Everyone's talking about wide receiver, and Patriots-wise, A.J. Brown is the obvious fit given his connection to Mike Vrabel and the Tennessee Titans. There's some news around Stephon Diggs and what his future with the Patriots could look like. So we'll hit it all here right now. And according to Mass Live, the Pats are working toward a resolution to try and fix Stephon Diggs' salary cap situation. Diggs has $6 million in guarantees due on March 13th. They must restructure that in order to lower his cap hit, which I believe is sitting around $26 million cap hit in 2026. So a hefty one. But a source also predicted, or a Mass Live source also predicted, that Diggs would be unwilling to restructure that contract. And the Herald also added that his return to New England is no guarantee. However, some high-ranking members of the organization believe his current contract, the $6 million guaranteed and the $26 million cap hit, is something that he could still play on even approaching his age 32 season. Is that correct?
He's 32 now.
He's 32 now, so playing into his 33 season. So that's the Diggs situation. We'll loop in A.J. Brown to kind of hit it all at the same time. There is internal interest in trading for A.J. Brown. And it's not just dependent on Stephon Diggs. Apparently, there's a scenario inside Gillette Stadium where they could see pairing A.J. Brown as well as Stephon Diggs in the same wide receiver room. But don't expect guys like Alec Pierce or Mike Evans to be involved. Sorry about the Alec Pierce. I know that's your guy. That's too bad. But
no, well, we said yesterday that Daniel Jones might be getting the franchise tag.
Jones could be the tag guy for the Colts. And if that happens, that potentially Alec Pierce hits the open market and the Patriots can try and play ball. So obviously moving targets, Taylor's getting excited. I saw your tweet about that. You're saying there's a chance. So, but on this note, now that we have all this information and the fact that the Patriots have explored trade talks involving wide receiver A.J. Brown already, and the Herald added that they currently feel that the asking price is too high. I know we talked about it a little bit last week when we did the crossover with Brian, but are you warming? I guess you said already that you would trade for A.J. Brown for the right price, but what do you think of Diggs and Brown in the same room? Do you think that can work if they can make the money work in New England?
I'd like Brian Thomas Jr. and Stephon Diggs.
I know.
Much better.
Right.
We don't have any update on that. We already talked about it, so I don't have to get too deep into the weeds there. But, I mean, I would love to be thrilled about it, but these are guys who are near the ends of their careers.
I know.
We need to acknowledge that. It kind of feels like I can't put my finger on it, but I feel like there's is it the Titans? The Titans, I feel
they
like
always do it.
Exactly. And that's
D-Hop and Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones and Randy Moss, that all of them finished their career with the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, so it feels like the best hits of the Titans at that point. And like obviously A.J. Brown is still one of the best receivers in the NFL. I'm not going to, pretend like he's not or anything like that. And obviously Stephon Diggs could still be effective coming off an ACL tear when he was in his early 30s. So both very impressive. And I think A.J. Brown would be an upgrade over a Kayshon Boutte, who, as we mentioned, was kind of a one-trick pony. As great as he is in those end-of-game and kind of clutch situations, as great as he is getting the ball in the deep part of the field, We don't really know what he is as a high volume target guy. You know what AJ Brown is. That said, I wouldn't overextend for him because you still have to take the knee issues into consideration. The fact that he was kind of spotty and just like looking at the tape from last year, it just looks weird. Like,
yeah,
there's throws where I can't tell, is this an effort thing? Is this just he and Jalen weren't on the same page? Just like bad throws from Jalen, period. What did AJ kind of pull up? Like, I don't know.
I know.
It was really kind of like funky. So for those reasons and the injury, and you're paying for what the guy's going to be, not for what he's done. Obviously, the Vrabel element of it, if you're talking about, the sideline antics and reading the book and everything, that's not going to happen with Vrabel. If we want to just say best case scenario, like all of that's off the table, fantastic. But this is still a guy you're paying a lot of money to. You're going to be committed to for about what is his contract? 3 more years?
AJ?
Yeah. It's like one of the most dense contracts I've ever seen in my life.
Wild. Which is kind of surprising that a guy like him, who is so, him and his agent clearly know he's volatile as far as where he wants to be. The fact that they signed a contract that made it impossible for the team to move him is kind of surprising. Now, I guess it also gives
security,
job security, stability, of course. So I guess that's the other side of it as always. But he's under contract until the 2030 season. So there's an out after next year, but he's locked in through 2030 right now.
I don't even know. That is such a Howie Roseman contract.
There's a void
I'm really not smart enough to understand why that even makes any sense. You said 2030.
There's a void year in 2030. So he's through 2029 right now. So through his age 32 season.
Okay, so I was kind of right. Okay, yeah. So that's like 3 years and there is the out and everything, but I still would not overextend. If it's a second and change, hell yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm not giving up I don't want to give up a first round pick. Maybe if it was just the first round pick.
31 for AJ, straight up.
Because that's like Messidor. Basically, you'd be like trading to get a little bit older version of Messidor.
Right.
31 straight up, I might do it. I'd want some change back, but I wouldn't be terribly mad. Yeah. But that's also his medicals check out. You're comfortable with all that. And I feel like, I don't know how much Vrabel and AJ talk about his medicals, but you'd hope that maybe he has some kind of insight. And at some point, AJ's been like, yeah, my knees are going to explode in 2 years. Something where he has some kind of idea of what exactly the situation is going to look at. And I'm sure the training staff will do their due diligence and make sure that it's something they even want to take on. But yeah, I just don't overextend yourself. And with the Stephon Diggs situation, I've been back and forth, and I acknowledge that. I literally, after shows, will get off and be like,
why did I say that?
Do I feel that way? Because I do when I say it. And then once it comes out, I think about it a little bit differently. Look, if you're not going to make splashes in free agency, the $6 million guaranteed isn't that big of a deal. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a drop in the pond at that point. But it's like, if you were going to make a couple of a big edge rusher, a big wide receiver, if you were going to extend yourself that way, then no, I'm saying you should try to make sure that you're getting this situation under control. Now, either way, paying him, was it 20? He's supposed to count like 25 million?
26 against the cap, I believe. Yeah, you got to restructure.
God,
you got to make it work.
I would like, and that's also, I think it's important to note what is from a team source and what is from a league source. Mm-hmm. It sounded like the Diggs not wanting to renegotiate was a league source thing. Realistically, where is Diggs going to go? How many Super Bowl contenders would want his services? And also, that's a new year where he's got another new team, another new quarterback he's got to get on the same page with. And who knows what could happen in the next season, right? He knows what Vrabel is. He knows what Drake is. I don't know. There's a lot of other quarterback head coach combinations that you'd have a lot of faith in to get you back to the Super Bowl, especially considering that this is an offseason where you have a lot of opportunities to fill those holes. So I would be surprised if Diggs is just completely against the contract restructure, because again, I feel like this is probably the best situation for him. But at the same time, the guy's got to look out for his bread. He may not care about all that and may think he can find a Super Bowl with another team, even if it's with a smaller role and things like that. I don't know. Or maybe it's a bigger role. Who knows? Because he acknowledged with the Patriots that he knew he was kind of one piece of the puzzle. So yeah, I don't know. I think that a restructure makes sense for both sides. Because I think even Stephon can acknowledge that, yes, he had 1,000 yards, but where was he in the playoffs?
Right.
Maybe there were some opportunities that we're taking advantage of, but in Drake's play does factor into this as well. It's not all Stephon Diggs. Can't throw himself the ball. But it's a little bit unfortunate that when the lights got the brightest in the end of the season, some guys played their best, like Gonzo, like Barmore, and Diggs, who you expected to be one of those game changers for you, if not all the time, at least in certain critical moments, wasn't really that consistently. So I still think a restructure makes sense. But look, if they decide to keep him on that contract, I also acknowledge that it's not going to be easy to replace him unless you're like drafting KC Concepcion.
Right.
I don't know. Where are you replacing that production? Maybe Kyle Williams steps up, but you can't really depend on that because
that's projection, and that's tough. Right.
Exactly. So like keeping Diggs, the more I thought about it, makes sense. He's harder to replace than Matt Collins. So yeah, man, you might just have, if you're not going to spend, you can afford to eat it. It's just like, it's making me queasy. You know, I don't know.
I'm with you because I want them to like get younger at the position rather than rely on an AJ Brown and Stephon Diggs to get them over the hump. And I get the AJ, like I'm a fan of AJ Brown's, working with Mike Vrabel and the fact that, he is one of the, at times has been a top 5 wide receiver and maybe floating around top 10 right now. And the knee situation isn't great, but he can bring you an experienced Super Bowl winning talent at wide receiver. But I feel the same way as far as, okay, these guys are both getting older. That almost feels like a move where, okay, you bring in Diggs, you bring in AJ Brown. That feels like an age 42 Tom Brady team type move where, okay, we want 1 year of a team that's just going to go, balls to the wall for one season, and you're not building a long-term solution around Drake May and the pass catching department. And I think that should be, you can obviously find a way to thread the needle and keep one aging veteran and then continue to get younger. But I don't like the idea of allotting that much money to Stephon Diggs and AJ Brown. Now, of course, some of that has to do with, as we said, them potentially restructuring the Diggs situation, but having both guys here, I'm just not a huge fan of it. I think you need to move the position forward rather than, dealing with two guys who are one is over 30 and one is approaching 30. So that's the wide receiver talk. One more thing here. Tight ends, according to the Herald, don't expect Isaiah Likely or Titans Chig Okonkwo to replace Austin Hooper. I know, but I want Isaiah Likely, Taylor. I want him. So stop. No. I
get Alec Pierce, Mike. We all want things.
Yes, we do. Yes, that is true. But players like Cade Otton and the Kohler Express, Charlie Kohler, are viewed as better fits, according to a team source. So that's the tight end situation. I know that Mike Vrabel mentioned the draft class as well is one that's very deep. So feels like they may go wide tight end in free agency, potential F tight end maybe in the NFL draft, but I'm sure that you are happy to hear that Isaiah Likely is off the board and Charlie Kohler is on the board.
I'm not happy for no Likely, but I am happy that Charlie Kohler is on there because when we talk about skill position players, we want playmakers. And LA Wolf literally said they want to continue to add more playmakers. That's very important, right? You need your receivers who are going to take some of the pressure off Drake, make his life easier, whether it's going up and getting contested balls, being able to separate, this and that. You know what else makes Drake's life easier? Being able to run the damn football.
Right.
Couldn't do that last year consistently. And I know part of them wants to be an outside zone team. I think it fits their personnel. I think you wouldn't think that Morgan Moses and Mike Nwenu would be good at that. They would be as good at that as they were. But you look towards the end of the season, man, they were moving people like Mike Nwenu quite literally, oh, I can't cross your face. Let me put hands on you and throw you behind me. How about that? And with that length, he can get it done. So they were really good running outside zone to the right. Left, it was a bit more inconsistent. Will Campbell flash at times. But I think Jared Wilson, we just saw, he really did struggle as a run blocker last year. But in those outside zone schemes, and even duo, where you think of it as more of a run where you're just going straight ahead, but what it actually is a lot of the time is you trying to squeeze and get everybody to bite on the inside on the defense so you can actually bounce it out to the perimeter. They couldn't do that last year because they didn't have the tight ends to be able to actually seal that gap and create room for the running backs to try to make a cornerback or a safety or somebody like that, a smaller body type miss. But it helps if you have a Charlie Kohler, who is the best blocking tight end in this free agent class. Very limited receiving production. Right. I have to put that on the table. It's almost like a who-man situation where, like, this guy might catch like 12, 15 passes in the season, and he may have more upside than he's been able to show. I want to acknowledge that. Like, he's in a room. He's the third tight end behind Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. You're not going to get the ball thrown to you very often. But he was at least a pretty reliable player. Falls down pretty quickly. I don't know if that's, him trying to be spatially aware or not, or sometimes the ball's in an awkward place. I don't think he's going to be a big yak guy, but he's at least a big target. And it's not like they're throwing the ball to Austin Hooper 5 times a game anyway. So
No.
I don't think that's a huge difference. So if you're talking about improving the skill positions, I think there also needs to be that push towards making sure the run game is actually getting better. Most of your offensive line might be, secure. We know they're thinking about adding a guard potentially through the draft. And hopefully that's a big guy what's his name? Dunker Jennings. That's the guy. Iowa State, the right tackle, probably going to move inside.
Jennings Dunker.
Jennings Dunker. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
But yeah, so the offensive line is probably going to be mostly the same. So you can improve the situation around them. I think getting a big tight end like a Charlie Cole or like Cade Otton is a more versatile player. He's got more receiving upside. He plays wide. He plays in the slot. He lines up in the backfield. So he'll give you more of that dynamic ability a little bit more. But he's not the same run blocker that Charlie Kohler is. And even fullback, I wasn't sure if they were going to pursue it because Brock Lampy was somebody who they had in their plans last year before I believe he and Land had broken foots, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Or some kind of foot injury.
Yeah.
But Reggie Gilliam, Patrick Ricard, two of the best fullbacks in the NFL are on the free agent market. And actually, I believe in PFF's run blocking grades, they were the top 2 in like the 70s, and nobody else was particularly close. Jack Westover, love the guy, works his ass off. Lowest graded run blocking fullback in the NFL among qualified players. I believe there was 8 qualified players in the NFL. Not great. And can he be useful and maybe find a role? Sure. But we also know that, for example, when the Patriots run their all their lead plays with Jack Westover as their top guy, they were one of the least efficient offenses in the NFL. Even though they ran it more than anybody else, nobody ran blast more than the Patriots, and it wasn't as effective as it's been in years past. And a Patrick Ricard, kind of like an opposite Kyrus Tonga a little bit there, where instead of being the defensive tackle who moonlights as a fullback, he is a fullback who also can play defensive tackle in a pinch and has some history there. If you want to go with more of that downhill scheme, and obviously the Ravens have run a very diverse run game. He can do a little bit of everything, but he is a bigger body. You can go with a Ricard, or if you want, like what Mike Vrabel talked about with some of these move blocks and things like that, go with the Reggie Gilliam. He's not really going to be the guy that you call up on blast very often, but he's got some receiving upside as well, which some of these other guys don't have, and he can handle a lot of different types of blocking assignments for you. So I don't think it's just tight end. I also think fullback is one where if you want to get better as an offense overall, you're not ignoring the run game. And a really big part of improving in that way is, one, getting better at tight end, and also getting yourself a more formidable lead blocker.
Part of the reason why I wanted Isaiah Likely here, Taylor, is the fact that he's a Massachusetts kid, went to Everett High School. Pat Ricard, Massachusetts kid as well.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Spencer, Massachusetts, went to the University of Maine, played football. So,
that's right. He did.
So I can deal with Kohler and Ricard, given that I still get, my Massachusetts born and bred in the same free agent class. So no, I like that idea as well. He's been great for them. You mentioned it. He came in as a defensive lineman and moved over to fullback, and has been he was a first team All-Pro in 2024. So can certainly help them bring the fullback back. Charlie Kohler, career highs in receiving yards, catches, 35. And touchdowns last year. 10 catches for 142 yards and 2 touchdowns. So like you said, he's a wide tight end.
I was like, I knew he didn't get the ball much, but 10, I was like, God damn.
He played 4 seasons. He had 4 catches his first year, 7 his second, 9 his third, and 10 last season. So he's moving up in the world. Maybe you never know. Maybe they give him exactly. There we go. So all right, that's tight end. A couple leftovers before we dive into the mock draft. Just wanted to hit on these. The Herald reported the Patriots have kicked the tires on lower level running backs, and also that they do have interest in retaining backup left tackle Vidarian Lowe. So could be I don't want to call him a swing tackle. I know we like to keep him at left tackle, but a backup left tackle situation behind Will Campbell for Vidarian Lowe for the right price. And I do wonder, they mentioned the lower level running backs. Do you go with a guy who has been around the block and can spell guys like Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson? We know that the team cut Antonio Gibson last week. So I wonder if they do go the veteran route there, if they do try and maybe bring in a rookie towards the back end of the NFL draft as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a rookie, but also you got 2 young guys in Travion Henderson and Lan Larison. Obviously, Lan is coming off an injury. You don't necessarily know you have in him. What I think this room needs, honestly, is a bruiser. I want them to get a guy who, no matter what the offensive line situation is, will never lose yards. He's going to run into a wall, and he's either going to stop or he's going to fall forward. So obviously you still want, I think you need an Antonio Gibson type where he can do a little bit of everything. Even if he doesn't have the best hands, he can at least be a reliable outlet. A guy you can rely on as a pass blocker would obviously be huge. But those guys, aren't the most common in the NFL. So bottom line, I really would like a no-nonsense badass who they can add to that room and just be able to be a hammer, grind games out towards the end. So it doesn't have to – Ramondre is one of your best players. You want to put the ball in your best player's hands, of course. But if you could also have a guy where you don't have to necessarily rely on Ramondre in some of those situations. And also we know Ramondre is not a great short yardage back. I think that some of it's been overblown. Like he's not terrible. I don't think he's as bad as the numbers suggest. And a lot of it is because the offensive line around him has been bad. But also, I remember I did a study last season. When you look at how often he makes guys miss, it's usually defensive backs. And he'll shake linebackers, but he doesn't run over linebackers. That's just not his skill set. So if they do kick the tires on a running back, I'd like it to be one of those types. I don't know. Now, looking at the bottom, you got a Miles Sanders. Austin Eckler obviously doesn't fit that mold. Alexander Madison, potentially. That's an interesting one. Nick Chubb, I don't think is going to want to be a true backup, so probably not him. Khalil Herbert operated in a committee. Only forced 2 missed tackles last year, so that's not great. But Raheem Mostert could be interesting. Again, I would like them to add that bruiser, whether it's a late pick or whether it's a veteran. I don't know how great the veteran market's going to be for that, because not a lot of those guys really have a reputation as that necessarily. But I do think that's the type. And when it comes to Darian Lowe, we talked about this, and it would make sense if he wanted to go somewhere where he might have a better opportunity or something. But I'd love to keep him. He was really, really good as their backup left tackle. Not perfect, obviously, but I think people have now finally come around to the idea that he's not a bad player. He's a bad every game starter, which is fine. Most NFL players are bad every game starters. This is a league that is made up of mostly role players and the blessed few that can actually hold down starting jobs consistently. So I think Vidarian's a good player. And also, if you're you have to draft someone that has some chance of supplanting Morgan Moses, whether that's an early round pick, mid-round pick, or what have you, or developmental project, whatever. So that's the guy that I think you would want to be more of your swing if you had one. But if Darian comes and he's only your backup left tackle, well, he's pretty damn good at it and one of the best spot starting left tackles in the NFL. You get him, you get yourself a young guy who can be the backup right tackle, and you still have Marcus Bryant, who was actually a left tackle in college and switched to more right tackle when he got to the pros. I actually think that would be a very good position. You'd have one of, I think, the better tackle rooms in the NFL, I'd say. Because Marcus Bryant, with all of his experience and ability, potentially, that's pretty intriguing. So makes all the sense in the world that they want Vidarian back. Great in the locker room also. And he's been here for a long time, man. He's been here as long as I've been here, actually, now I think about it. So, fits well in that old line room. Would love for Vidarian Lowe to come back. Also, it was my first interview. First interview ever on the.
There you go. Keep him around. No,
for that reason only.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't care about the fit in the room. We don't care about him being a great spot starter. That's the fact that he's a CLNS alum. That's why I want him back. No, but seriously, I'm with you. I think that he would make sense for what they need at the position. We know the deal with Will Campbell and having someone there who could be that spot starter and just a veteran in the room, like you said. He's been around the block here now ever since they traded for him from Minnesota a couple seasons ago. So I like the idea of keeping him around in the fold.
This is a fun one. I would do Barmore straight up.
Would they
the same age, actually?
No, I don't think so.
Barmore's 26.
Okay.
Yeah, bro. If anything, you got to give me money. Nah, I would do it straight up. I don't know that they would do that.
I don't either. I don't think they would.
Don't they do it for a pick too? I'm not giving.
What do they need at defensive tackle right now? Nothing.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
their defensive tackles. They're like the Patriots. They have 2 of the best in the game. But
what's their depth? They have more. Oh yeah, they have Mojo.
Ojomo from Texas, right? Yeah.
Ty Robinson, Byron Young. Yeah, they're chilling. All right.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
But it's fun. It's fun little thought experiment.
All right, you want to close this thing out with the mock draft, Taylor?
Yeah, let's do it, baby.
Let's do it. Let's have some fun. We'll go 4 rounds. We have the PFF simulator loaded up. We're not going to do with a full 7-rounder just yet.
I barely know 4th rounders. At this
I was
going
to say,
underway.
We'll use some of the intel we just got and ran through from the Harold and Mass Live to try and give us a feel for what the Patriots would do here in a 4-round mock draft. So pick 41, 4 rounds. We won't go turbo
31.
just yet. What did I say?
41.
Oh, pick 31, excuse me. We will go we'll go 4 rounds. We'll keep it we'll go this speed for now to let it happen. And we'll see what we can make happen here.
Not going to be doing many crazy trades. First round trades, but after that,
I agree. We'll see who's on the board at the end of round 1, and then we go from there. So
I did this earlier and I traded for another 4th round pick, and I was just like, shit, I don't know. I don't know who a lot of these people are.
All right. Oh, Mesidor goes early. Cassius Howell goes early.
TJ Parker.
All right, we'll stop. Who's gone so far? Monroe Freeling also went.
So we'll establish, do we want to just pick who's on the board, or do we want to try to be realistic and respect the board a little bit? Because like Casey Concepcion's going to be here, and he's probably not.
We'll play it how it goes for now.
Okay.
We'll see. We'll see if Concepcion goes. He does not. So okay, KC's here. Zion Young is here.
Sadiq?
Is that respecting the board?
I can't. I gotta respect the board.
I don't think so. Like I can see a scenario where KC is here. I don't see a scenario where Sadiq falls all the way to 28 or 31 rather.
Let's check the trades. The trades.
We'll
hit that later. Is that 53?
55.
That's the best we can do?
43.
43 is the best.
Yeah.
Can we get 75 and with no crap?
53% chance of being accepted. 31 for 43 and 75.
What about 87?
95% chance.
What about 87 and 110?
45%.
Okay. Would you do 87? Let's look one more time who's on the board. Because I just like the idea of a trade more than anything, but
Blake Miller, Ian Aker, Dunker,
and then a bunch of guards,
and then
I think they'll be around next round to be. So in real life,
yeah,
I think that Ian Aker would probably be the most sensible pick here. Like I don't even know. I don't know how.
Not Zion Young.
Let's trade.
Okay.
See what happens.
We're going to trade 43.
Like, this all looks odd, and I don't feel comfortable with a lot of these, so let's see what happens.
87, is that fair, or are we giving up too much? So we move back 12 spots, we lose a 50-year option, and we get the 87th overall pick.
Let's see with 110.
I think we're better off doing 75.
Let's see if they accept it.
Okay. All right, we're good.
Okay, we're cooking.
Here we go. All right, 43.
Yeah, who did they take, though? Do we screw ourselves in the division? I'm not scared of the Dolphins.
Peter Woods.
Oh, okay, fine. Whatever.
All right, so we'll let this run through.
Kenneth Grant, that could actually be pretty nasty.
So KC went. Zion Young is there at 43. Is that respectable?
Hell yeah. Yeah.
Take him.
This might be under. Oh, okay, let's talk about this.
Okay.
Why is Omar Cooper still there? Okay,
I don't know.
People clearly have not been watching.
Yeah.
What about tackles? Is everyone gone?
Ian Aker still here.
Oh,
Ian Aker or Zion Young. I think you go Zion Young. I think you do.
You do. Yeah, I don't think Ian Aker would actually be there at 43.
Yeah, I think this is a
Would
back.
Young be there at 43? He could.
We mentioned.
Yeah, whatever. We talked about it. It's the draft intel.
Bang.
Zion Young. We're listening to the tea leaves.
Cooper went the pick after.
Faster. This is too slow. I'm annoyed.
Okay.
Fast. It doesn't have to be turbo.
There you go. All right.
So
we took Zion Young. We're sitting here at 63. Wide receivers available. Elijah Surratt.
I like him, but he's more like honestly, it's like a Diggs replacement. He might not be the worst thing in the world.
Tight ends, offensive tackle.
Tight end, I want to hit more in the middle rounds.
Okay. Tackles.
Jennings Dunker. I think that makes sense because you get yourself. He can. How long were his arms actually? Let me see. Dunker combine.
I have a hard time thinking he's going to be here.
Is his hair or his arms as long as his hair?
That's a good question.
33.5-inch arms. I think Unwenu's are like 35. He's got 34 and 3/4.
Okay.
Because Mike, the only reason he's so good at tackle, not the only, he's a good athlete, but like he's mostly good at tackle when he's there because he gets such long arms.
Right.
I mean, also I have a handicap of not knowing who everyone on this board is.
Yeah, same. But is Jennings Dunker going to be here at this point?
I don't know, to be
I
honest.
feel like he might go in the second round, especially. I know everyone was joking about his hair.
We're in the second round still. We're in the second round.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Let's look at everybody else real quick. Because I'm leaning
from the
Joshua
top.
Josephs is a good player, but I think we just got an edge. Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's looking like he's the guy. I like Malachi Fields, but after the 4-6, I think his stock is going to drop to like the round.
We taking Dunker?
Taking Dunker.
Let's do it. All right. Oh, he's listed as a tackle. Yeah, is he going to play guard in the league?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But he can play tackle in a pinch, which is huge.
Yeah, right. All right, now we have our 75th pick from the Miami Dolphins. And
Let's make it count, baby.
Wide receivers.
Brazel? Is he going to be there?
75? He might.
I'll go Brazel. Let me look at the rest of the board just to be fair. But hell yeah, man. If you get him in the third round, I don't know if that's realistic or not, but we're not fully playing by the rules.
Jacob Rodriguez is still here. I love him.
He's not going to be in the third round.
I know. I don't think so.
Isn't he like a first-ish?
I feel like he's probably like a second round pick. I know that David Bailey is the one who's going to be like top 5, but
linebacker is for 5th round. Justin Jolie would be interesting. No, I would go Chris Brazel for sure in this group.
All right, let's do it.
Right. Yeah. I like this.
Yeah, here's what we got so far. Zion Young, Jennings Dunker, Chris Brazel. That's a pretty good little haul right now, Taylor.
That is good so far.
All right.
I'm proud of us. All right. Now, this is where I may need to start looking guys up, but that's okay.
We have 3 picks remaining.
Let's look at tight end.
I saw a lot of people in the chat today talking about Joe Royer out of Cincinnati.
Yeah. He definitely fits, I believe, that mold of like the move, do it all kind of tight end, like Oscar Delp. I think they're similar type of players in that vein. Let me just double check. Scored in Dan Harms, friend of the show. Joe Royer is an experienced tight end prospect who shreds zone defense by always finding soft spots underneath and locating space after the catch. He plays with great timing in the offense and showcases fantastic hands with an impressive catch radius for a shorter arm tight end. Sam Roush also has very short arms, but he's a great blocker. He's a former 4-star recruit and transfer from Ohio State. Wanted to be more involved in an offense after 4 catches for 24 yards during his time with the Buckeyes. His 2024 output changed drastically, with 50 catches for 523 yards and 3 touchdowns in Cincinnati's offense. The Bearcats offense already caught more touchdown passes this fall. All right. What are the downsides? He needs more functional strength. His technique isn't great, and he's a limited athlete. I'm going to be honest. I don't like limited athletes at tight end. You draft freak athletes and you hope that they develop. That's the key. So for that reason, maybe we wait here. We already have. I don't think we're going to get a better right tackle here.
No.
Maybe we look at some defensive positions. Corner.
Double dip on the edge. Corners.
I don't know a lot of these guys, to be honest, so this might be tough. Is there a lot of names I've heard but do not know much of?
Yeah, I know.
We're not. I don't know. I got too brave. I don't know these guys well enough. I don't want to be disrespectful. Would we double dip at tight end?
We could.
Because Charlie Kohler is not going to be the next Hunter Henry.
No, he's not, Taylor. He's maybe going to pass 10 catches all season. So what about Jolie here? And then you wait on.
Justin Jolie is interesting. Let's see the other tight ends again.
Okay. CJ Daniels, Deion Burks. Oh, wait, hold on.
That was receivers.
Yep, I'm losing my mind. Justin Jolie, Sam Roush, Joe Royer.
I think Jolie. And
I think I like Jolie here.
Take him. Jolie and then Roush if he's still there.
All right, here we
go. That'd be really fun.
Is he going to go? Oh, Rouse just went.
No! All right. Any more inline guys we can grab? Eli Raritan.
Take him here or wait till
name?
we have 125 and 131. And this is who we've taken so far.
All right, let's see the rest of the board then.
Jalen Farmer, guard out of Kentucky. Well, we took
Dunker. Yeah,
we took Dunker. I forgot.
Let's see. Let's maybe we could double dip an edge too. That's the ones we know about, so might as well. Isaiah World, get better soon. Quintavious Hutchins, I know, is a guy who's on the radar. No, not yet. So okay, we take Raritan, and then we'll see if Quintavious is still there.
All right, let's do it. I like that. Tight end, Raritan. He's gonna be here. So we want Hutchins here.
Let's look at. Do we know any of these line? I don't know the linebackers well enough. Put him in there. Yeah, I don't know. Harold Perkins is a name I know. Elam's Orr. I kind of want. It's too early though. Elam's Orr is someone that EJ Snyder called out. He had a really good combine. Eric Gentry is actually a name I know as well. Okay, so I know. Oh, he's the one who looks like a small forward, right?
I believe so. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
That dude has the craziest body for an NFL player I've ever seen. But I watched the tape and he moves pretty well. But I would also be I would love to see if he had to change direction really quickly because all I saw were his highlights.
What do you think of Le'Veon Moss out of A&M? You a fan of his?
I don't know him.
Don't know him. He's a decent running back. He missed most of the year.
Running back is going to be like late day 3.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Also, somebody asked why 2 tight ends. Well, Hunter Henry is. I wouldn't be surprised if this is his last year, to be honest.
Yeah.
And Charlie Kohler is a very one-dimensional player. So I think that, and it's not like you have so much depth of the position, you don't know what to do with it, right? So I think it could potentially make more sense to have a couple of young guys to develop a tight end. We know Josh McDaniels likes to have his base personnel groupings to manipulate what the other team is doing. And also, I love tight ends, and I'm biased.
Yeah,
I'm very excited about the idea of that.
I think we need defense.
Yeah. Quintavious. We'll go Quintavious.
Let's do it. All right.
Apparently, he's got a lot of tools. I'll look up his scouting report, actually. I looked him up earlier today. How do you spell it? Quinn.
B+. Not too shabby.
I'll take that. Okay, so his scouting report. Wait, what the hell? Why did it just take me to my Twitter? That was weird. Quintavious Hutchins. There we go. Okay. This is from Lance Zierlein of NFL.com.
Did I just lose our mock?
Oh, my God.
I lost our mock. I backed up by accident.
It's okay. I remember it. Wait, can you go back?
I tried to. It brought me to my Google.
Oh, no. It's the first one. We got it out of the way.
I was dragging. I tried to drag the photo to save it to my desktop, and I lost the whole thing.
Oh, shit.
All right.
Well, I remember we got Zion Young first, Jennings Dunker.
Yep.
Chris Brazzell. So we can just do this again in the trade simulator. We'll just do it until the Dolphins offer another pick. Chris Brazzell.
That's so bad. The 2 tight ends, Jolie,
Raritan, and then we got Quintavious Hutchins.
Yeah.
Now, Hutchins' bio by Lance Zierlein. A 5th-year senior, Hutchins has started just 16 games. While he's light on starting experience, his game is more mature. He's undersized but stronger than his measurables might suggest. He's physical in his block take-ons and sets edges with an adequate anchor. My God. Hutchins creates pressure opportunities with his footwork and bend, but a lack of explosiveness in his get-off tends to limit his overall sack production. He's an above-average athlete with good short area burst when pursuing runners and quarterbacks. Hutchins should compete for a backup role as a stand-up edge and become a plus contributor on special teams. So we probably took him way too early. But again, we took a chance on going all the way to the 4th round, and it backfired a little bit with a bunch of guys that we're not familiar with yet in the draft process. It's why having the combine before free agency is just so annoying because it forces you to have these conversations with guys where if you're a team that was lucky enough to cover the Super Bowl and doesn't watch college football, you could not possibly know who they are. But I think we did our best. You know what? We just had 1 4th-round pick. That's it. Was it? We had 2/3 and then the 4th?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
2/3 of course.
I'm gonna go back and try and I just tried to reset it on my end, and someone took Zion Young at pick 39. So I'm gonna go try and get us a screenshot so we can at least tweet it out and promo it and let people know what we did. But for now, couple tight ends, 2 edge rushers, and a interior offensive lineman, and Chris Brazel. Which on this, I wish
Brazel. Am I saying it wrong?
What did I say? Brazel?
You said Brazel. Is it Brazel or because Brazel doesn't sound right either, but I haven't heard it yet.
I don't know either.
Okay.
Old Man Mob sent me a screenshot. Oh, he got. Oh, word. Old Man Mob got it for us.
Beast.
The man. Oh, because
best fans in the game.
We put it on because we put it on the show, so people went back. Appreciate you guys. Thank you. All right. We'll go back. We'll tweet that out. We have our draft. And we can
draft for the Quintavious pick.
That's okay.
It's okay. It's disclaimer. We only know like 40 guys.
Exactly. This is why this is our draft prep is doing these in general. So now we know the guys are on the board, and
it's gonna be when we look back on this in a month, and we're just like, remember we didn't know who Quintavious Hutchins was? We took him in the 4th round. No offense, Quintavious. That's just
BC, born and bred. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it. We're at an hour 10. So we went through all the intel. We did a little 4-round mock for you guys. We'll keep bringing these to you as always. We also have a crossover episode coming out later this afternoon as well. We'll go 6 p.m. with Brian and Alex with more combine news, notes, and we'll talk about some winners and losers from Indianapolis. So we'll see you guys at 6 p.m. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll probably post this mock as a separate video as well, so you guys can check out the entire thing. And as always, make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to Patriots Press Pass. And thank you guys for tuning in, leaving some comments. We did get a super chat shout out. As a 19-year-old who's looking to get into media, as someone who covers the Patriots, how did you guys break in, and what tips do you have? Oh, boy. You can answer at the end of the mock. You guys are great. So tips are tough. Keep pressing, keep trying is what I said. Tweet into the abyss for as long as possible.
Yeah.
Don't get discouraged, and keep being you. And we appreciate the $10 super chat as always. It's not an easy business to get in, but I will say that not giving up is something that I always stand by, and you should too. At Yellow Wing Ed Viero. We appreciate the super chat. Thank you, my friend.
Yeah. I would say follow your passions. That will usually drive you to make your best content. And also continue to challenge yourself, which is much, much easier said than done.
Yes.
But I think the only way to really make a big impact or make an impact where people will notice you is not only do the things you're good at, that'll get you there at first, but also when you have new skills and you're able to continue building on what you're already doing, that's really what is going to help you catch people's attention. I'm very bad at this because I feel like I finagle my way into this business, and I always
same
advice. But yeah, for me, it's follow your passions and keep challenging yourself, and
Definitely.
be a decent person. Also, don't be a weirdo.
Oh, always be a good person. That's the way to look at life all the time. Anyway, thank you for the super chat. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, we'll be back tonight with Alex and Brian for a 6 p.m. crossover. So make sure you tune into that. We'll have a ton of coverage leading into free agency next week as well. So make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to Patriots Press Pass. And until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we will see you soon here on Patriots Daily. Peace out, everyone.